Remember when I told you that in India they created the numbers that we use today, the Arabic numbers? And I told you that at some point I will tell you why they're called Arabic numbers. Well, today's the day. They are called Arabic numbers because when the Muslims move into India, they're going to adopt those numbers, that number system. And they're going to spread the use of that number system throughout all the areas that they conquer. And when they travel through missionaries or merchants, they're going to use that number system, and so it's going to spread. And that's why it's called Arabic numbers, is because the Arabic people adopted it and are going to be the ones to spread it around the world, basically. I told you in the intro that even though Europe is going through the Dark Ages around this time period, a lot of other areas in the world are experiencing Renaissance, such as the Muslim world. We're going to have a time period called Dar Al Islam, or the Golden Age of Islam, under the Abbasids. Today we're going to talk about two caliphates. Remember, caliphates are ruling families, like dynasties or like a monarchy. Our two main caliphates are the Umayyad and the Abbasid. The Umayyad is going to be the first, and they're going to conquer a large area of land. But under the Abbasids is where we're going to have the Dar Al Islam, the Golden Age of Islam. Let's start with the Umayyad Caliphate. The Umayyad are going to be Sunni. Remember, Sunni is going to be the majority of Muslims. The Umayyad are going to conquer large areas and rule those areas. They're going to conquer a lot of the early Islamic tribal societies that we see after Muhammad. The Umayyad capital is going to be in Damascus. And if this sounds familiar, Damascus is the place where Paul was traveling to when he was blinded by God and has his revelation and is sent on his mission to go and convert the Gentiles or the non-Jews to Christianity. The Umayyads did not treat non-Muslims very well. They were heavily taxed, and there were very demeaning laws that they had to follow. And even under the Muslims, even if you were Muslim, if you were not Arab Muslim, then you were not treated as well. And so non-Arab Muslims were seen as below the Arab Muslims, but above the people of the book. Intermarriage is very much discouraged, and not only between believers and non-believers, but between Arab and non-Arab. Just like Buddhism and Christianity, Islam promises salvation for all, and so women under the faith are equal to men. But under the Umayyad, we are going to have somewhat of a patriarchal society. Women cannot lead prayer. Men can take up to 4 wives if they can provide for them. And so even though women are seen as equal under the faith, they are still under men. We still have that patriarchal society. Last video I talked to you about the Dome of the Rock, which is located in Jerusalem. The Dome of the Rock is going to be constructed under the Umayyads. The Umayyads are going to fall much like our other empires in period 2 fall. Much like the Hunger Games with the capital, that they're very self-centered. They lead this lavish lifestyle and don't deal with the outside problems. And they are going to be taken down by the Abbasids, and I love this story. The Abbasids invite the Umayyads to dinner, and the Abbasids are another major family. They invite the Umayyads to dinner and stab them at the dinner table. Whole nother meaning to stabbing someone in the back. Just wow. So that's the end of the Umayyads, and we move on to the Abbasids. Again, the Abbasids are a caliphate, so it's a ruling family. And they take over the area that the Umayyads had conquered, but they move the capital from Damascus to Baghdad, which is in modern-day Iraq. The Abbasids are Sunni, and they welcome non-Arab Muslims, especially the Persians. They're very into Persian art, literature, culture. They adopt the Persian headdress that women wore. And let's talk about that for a sec. The veil that women wear in Islam, that Muslim women wear, is sometimes used as a way to put down women and has been used in certain Muslim societies, but at its core, it's used to respect God. It's used as a way of respecting God. A lot of other faiths do this too. Catholic women for a long time would cover their heads in service, and nuns always had to cover their head. Jewish women in some Jewish cultures had to cover their head in service. Same thing in the Greek Orthodox Church. So head covering is not something new. It's not something new for women in religious circumstances. And so even though, yes, in Islam it has been used as a way to enforce the patriarchal society in some Islamic cultures, Most Muslim women today wear the headscarf as a way to respect God. The Abbasids are going to have a bureaucracy, and remember, a bureaucracy is a very top-down form of government. You have someone at the top that's making the decisions, but you have different levels that carry out the decisions. The Abbasids are going to be very big into trading and sailing. They're going to invent this new type of ship called a dhow that's very good for sailing. The Abbasids are very wealthy, but instead of using that wealth to live lavish lifestyles, they invest in learning and education and the arts. And this is the Dar Al Islam, the golden age of Islam. There are going to be a number of scientific advancements made during this time period in astronomy, in alchemy, in medicine, and the Astrolabe is going to be invented during this time period. And the Astrolabe is a tool used by sailors and astronomers. In math, the Abbasids are going to add on to geometry and trigonometry, so you can thank the Abbasids that you study those classes today. In literature, the Book of 1000 Nights is going to be written, and if you've ever seen the movie Aladdin, that is based off a story in the Book of 1000 Nights. Though like most Disney movies, it is very different than the actual story. Greek philosophy is going to be preserved under the Abbasids, and a lot of other Greek writing and Greek learning. And you can thank the Muslims that all of that knowledge makes its way to Europe. Through the Crusades, through trading, the knowledge makes its way from the Muslims to the Europeans, and we're really not going to be able to have the Renaissance without this knowledge. A lot of the Renaissance is based on the knowledge and teachings of the Romans, of the Greeks, and we have this because of the Muslims preserving it. Geometry is going to be very big in Islamic art and architecture. A lot of geometric designs are going to be used. If you haven't seen it, I encourage you to Google some Islamic art. It is gorgeous, it is very beautiful, very well done. Again, geometry, geometric shapes are going to be very big in Islamic art and architecture. Education is very valued under the Abbasids. There's going to be this huge library in Baghdad, and when the Mongols come in, it's going to be sacked, and a lot of the papers are going to be thrown in the river, so much so that the river turns black because of the ink, and so all of that knowledge is going to be lost when the Mongols come and invade. The Abbasids did have slaves, and so that's probably one of the reasons that they're so wealthy and why they're able to do a lot of the stuff. And so it's not all good. They did have slaves. The Abbasids are going to fall because of outside invaders and because they expanded out too far. They're not able to control their empire because they expanded out too far. They don't have the resources, and they're going to be invaded by the Seljuk Turks and then by the Mongols, and that will be the end of the Abbasids. So this is very similar to what we studied in period 2. Remember the circle that I talked about, that you expand out too far and you're not able to control your resources, you're not able to control everything. And when you are invaded, when you have outside problems, you don't have the resources to defend yourself. Next time we're going to talk about the spread of Islam, how it spread into Southeast Asia and Africa. I'll see you then.